Let's talk about endocrine glands, which means hormone-producing glands. There are several organs that produce hormones that are not endocrine glands. That's not their primary function. First, I'm going to go over the ones where it is one of their main primary functions, again, is hormone production. So let's start up here in the brain, this little tiny gland that's in kind of the back of your brain. It's above the superior colliculus. This is the pineal gland. This gland produces melatonin for sleep-wake cycles, so circadian rhythm. We won't be talking about this gland much this semester. Circadian, there we go. Also in the brain is the hypothalamus. This is part of the brain, so it actually contains a lot of neural tissue as well, so neurons, but it also contains neurohormones, which means neurons that produce hormones. This is going to be really important this semester. Hypothalamus controls the autonomic nervous system, but also connects to the pituitary gland. So that's how we're going to focus on it this semester is its physical connections. This is the pituitary gland just below the hypothalamus. So pituitary gland will also be very important. There are two components of the pituitary gland. One is endocrine tissue and the other is nervous tissue, but they both are important for the endocrine system. The nervous tissue component actually releases neurohormones, so it's part of the endocrine system as well. So this is going to be a big focus of this unit is going to be hypothalamic pituitary organ axes. So these connections control several other pathways, one of which actually is right here is the thyroid. So I'm going to star that one. So there's something called a HPT pathway, hypothalamic pituitary thyroid pathway, whereby the hypothalamus and pituitary control the thyroid gland. So that's one of the ones we'll look at. The thyroid gland, we saw it briefly in its role in calcium homeostasis. It plays a kind of smaller role in that. Its main role is more in metabolism. So we will look at the thyroid, its primary endocrine tissue. On the thyroid, there are four little glands called the parathyroid. We saw this in the fall related to calcium homeostasis. So response of PTH to low calcium targets things like osteoclasts to release calcium and thereby increase calcium. We won't talk more about the parathyroid this semester. Okay, this one down here is the thymus. We won't talk about a whole lot. It's endocrine and also lymphatic or immune function. So definitely opportunity for extra credit if you want to read more about this gland. Okay, above the kidneys, you should know what that one is. Adrenal gland, adrenal glands. Adrenal glands we saw in the fall related to autonomic nervous system. There's modified ganglia that release norepinephrine and epinephrine as hormones. So that was actually a hormone example. We're also going to see another component of the adrenal gland. There's a cortex and a medulla, two components to it, that are part of the stress response separate from the ANS. This is going to be cortisol. So you may have heard of cortisol as kind of the stress hormone. So those are two of its big roles. We're also going to see it in osmoregulation. This means regulating salt, right? Osmolarity of the blood. So we'll focus on that one a little bit later on when we get to the urinary system. The adrenal glands are controlled by the pituitary as well. So this is going to be part of our HP. Oh, wrong one. HPA. Hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Okay, let's see. Then, so star that one. Pancreas. You know, the pancreas doesn't quite look like this, especially in a rat. It's a little bit more diffuse right next to the spleen. It's going to play an important role in blood sugar regulation. We will talk about it primarily in the digestive system. It plays a role in an endocrine role in blood sugar regulation. It also, separate from that, produces digestive enzymes. So digestion, these enzymes are exocrine. They're secreted into the digestive system. We'll come back to that in the digestive unit. Blood sugar regulation, this is insulin and glucagon. These are hormones. Endocrine. So it has both functions. We'll look at the pancreas to distinguish that a little more. Okay. Last for endocrine organs are the gonads. I have it over here because there's showing the male and female gonads in this image. On top here, these are the ovaries. And this is one testis, but I'm going to call testes because usually there's two. So these are the hormone-producing glands of the reproductive systems, male and female reproductive systems. There is a lot more about reproduction that we'll talk about other than these specific glands. But these are the component of the reproductive system that produces hormones. So estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, which we'll talk more about, and those play a role in reproduction, as well as growth and development and other functions related to that. So we'll talk about the HPG axis, hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, briefly in the endocrine unit, and then see it in much more detail in the reproduction unit. Okay, those are the main endocrine glands. There are also many organs that produce hormones as a secondary function. And some of these, there's a lot, almost all of your organs. But some of the ones we are going to see include the heart, the kidneys. So the kidneys, for example, produce erythropoietin to produce red blood cells. Stomach, intestines, skin, uterus, placenta, other things. So a hormone just means it's a signaling molecule that travels in the blood. An organ can have a function that its main function, heart, is to pump blood, but hormone production is important for body function by that organ as well. So we will see that as well. That these other organs aren't always just targets, they also can be technically the control center.